Welcome to the new show here at Big Condo Radio. We like to call ourselves the Rest Stop. The Rest Stop off the digital highway and far to this corner of the DC universe. Here we are at Essentials. I am the hijacker, and I am taking you off road with me down this particular lane of the Justice Society of America. Thought I would like do this little overview of that because of the new show that is on DC Universe as well as our favorite network CW, and that is Stargirl. Now, a lot of you may be excited. Stargirl had just started, and what I'm going to do is on the rest stop, I'm going to do a short stint where we look at the first and the second episode of Stargirl, just for you to play catch up. And we figured the best way to do it is to first start off with an overview of where Stargirl comes from, and that is the Justice Society of America. Now, the Justice Society is like pretty much one of the first super teams of the DC universe. You know, they came out in the 1940s. I believe they premiered in All Star Comics 3, where the different mystery main characters who were separate, like the Flash and Green Lantern, teamed up with the other individual characters that were in various other comics like More Fun Comics and everything, where you would get like the Spectre or Green Arrow, believe it or not, Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman did one of her first secretarial roles in the Justice Society. And actually, it wasn't the Wonder Woman we're all familiar with. It was her mother, Hippolyta, as Wonder Woman, which is kind of interesting. So the team would meet. They would come together. The way they did that spine of the book is that they would come together and share stories. They would share stories of their adventures, of what they were doing outside in the meeting hall. But then sometimes they would also splinter off. And from the meeting hall to adventures where they will break down in group dynamics of twos and threes. So you will get like, say, kind of like Green Lantern teaming up with Johnny Thunder, or you'll get the Spectre teaming up with Dr. Fate, you know. And unfortunately, because they didn't do a lot of supervillains at the time, it was a lot of, because they were coming off prohibition and gangsters, there was a lot of like the whole hat squad of the gangsters that they had to fight. So there would be smugglers, rum runners, different kind of, crime, as they would look at it, organized crime and everything. But then sometimes they would actually hire a villain, you know, like the Wizard or Brainwave or uh, what was his name? I was gonna say, yeah, but either way, Vandal Savage even, Per Degaton, there was a lot. The Fiddler. So anyway, so they would individually fight these villains, and eventually these villains would team up into what they end up calling the Injustice Society of the World. So, like, later it was the Injustice Society of America, but I think initially they started out as Injustice Society of the World. And there's that classic image of the group of villains carving up pieces of the world, you know, that they were going to take over. You like, you would have Africa, or you would have Tanzania, China, you know, that kind of thing. So that was pretty cool. And it took the team up of these heroes to take them down. And so what happened is, over time, we had McCarthyism, we had the seduction of the innocent, and we had comic books, you know, were banned, believe it or not. And that means that the Justice Society had to go away. So we had also we had the war. We had the war effort going on, and as every good-natured American signed up for the war, the superheroes did the same thing by dropping their identities and signing up for the war. So they followed suit with the way the world was going. So, you know, you didn't get much, wartime comics, except for you had the heroes on the home front and everything, battling and going out for buying war bonds, all that kind of stuff, and using the papers of the magazines. as well, and collectibles. So the Justice Society had to disappear, in a McCarthyism type of thing, and where they refused to give up their identities, and they all just kind of like disappeared one day in court. This became a fantastic series when they were doing a lot of retconning back in the 70s and stuff, where the Justice Society, it was like America versus the Justice Society, because there was really no reason for it. What happened at the time was they just stopped publishing the comics, but like they wanted to cover up like why did this happen. So come when I started reading comics in the 70s and everything, it came to be that the Justice Society returned. So it always was like, where did they go and why did they not fight Hitler and everything else like that. And while they were gone, who took their place? What happened to the seven soldiers of victory? Because they disappeared for some time. So what happened was that they did the meeting of the two worlds where the Flash teams up with the Flash of Earth One, Barry Allen. And so the Justice Society, through Magic Crystal Ball, they bridged the universes. And now we have the Justice Society of Earth 2, along with the Justice League of Earth 1. And that became a yearly crisis event. So, in one of their first crisis events, it would be to find out what happened to the Seven Soldiers of Victory. Now, the members of the Seven Soldiers of Victory, they weren't really actually a team that had its own book, but they were individual heroes like Star Spangled Kid and Striped C, the original Green Arrow and Speedy, the Shining Knight, and Crimson Avenger, and the Vigilante, and their sidekicks. So, like, one of the crises was finding them, and they were all trapped throughout time and history. So they've come back. So, in coming back, basically, we had this idea of legacy taking place. So there was a comic came out in the 70s called The Super Squad. And this was Star Spangled Kid and Power Girl. So they were like the new youngins, legacy characters from the Justice Society, and they tried a book with them for a while. But the Star Spangled Kid was kind of like Captain America in the 80s. We weren't that righteous for truth, justice, and liberty, and so a kid running around in a Star Spangled outfit didn't really seem too cool and everything. So we had further crises where they decided to make the Justice Society at least look and feel their age that they were, because they've been around since the 40s. So they had to come up with this thing of them having kids, or at least um, not really sidekicks, but like legacy characters to take over for them and stuff. So in doing that, Star Spangled Kid decided to become Skyman, and everything. Sylvester Pembleton was no longer like the 15-year-old that he was, and everything like that. And he decided to help form a team of the Legacy Kids, like the Teen Titans version of the Justice Society, and that became Infinity Inc. And this is when the Atom had a kid, Atom Smasher, and Jade was the daughter of the Green Lantern, along with his son, who was Obsidian. Hawkman had, two boys, Northwind and the Scarab. Fury was the daughter of Hippolyta. So it was kind of like, all right, so this is what's going on. So then, we had these various different books where we tried to retcon the Justice Society into the All-Star Squadron, which is kind of like a nod that elongated man made in Crisis, where it's like, oh wow, we have the All-Star Squadron here and everything. So I love the All-Star Squadron, one of my favorite books of the 80s. So then what happened was that, so without Skyman was kind of like killed in a really terrible kind of accident by a fellow hero character named Dr. Bones, who had a skeleton face and a cyanide touch. and he was lost to us and everything. And so sometime later, Jeff Johns, who was the man behind Stargirl, decides to create his version of the Star Spangled Kid, which is Stargirl, who was inspired by the death of his sister and everything else. So, like in that aspect, is that he wanted to utilize her spunk, and now we have a 16-year-old new Star Spangled Kid running around. Because remember, Sylvester was 15 when he first started. So she's running around and as a legacy character, and because Pat Dugan had disappeared, he shows up again with a son, Mike, and who's Courtney's stepdad and everything, and he builds a robot and everything, and that robot is Stripe. You know, the acronym of Stripe. I don't want to get into it, but and everything what the acronym was. So now we got Stars and Stripe, and we have a comic that lasts for a year and everything, and it was all cool because the character was nice and spunky and everything. At first, she used the Star converter belt that Star Spangled Kid had, and everything that would gave her the strength and extra agility and all that. But in a weird kind of story, we have the whole Starman legacy coming down from Ted Knight and everything else like that, and his son Jack Knight. And Jack Knight, who was a reluctant hero, decides to take the little wand, the Star Converter wand, and stretch it out into a staff. And so that staff, he decided that when he had a son, that he was going to retire and he's going to pass on his legacy to Stargirl. So now Stargirl becomes the new Stargirl, as far as she was like Star Spangled Girl, you know. So she becomes a new Stargirl. So that brings us up to a date where in the comics, how we got to Stargirl with the staff. And her sidekick is an adult in a robot outfit. So that's how we get to Stars and Stripes. And Jeff Johns, who was always a fan of the DC universe, who created that comic, was able to bring that legacy into live action, into television. Now, in short, Stargirl did exist in live action in the Arrowverse as well as the Smallville verse, and everything. And she was done about 2 or 3 times in there. But this is like the third incarnation of Stargirl, played by the lovely Brett Bassinger. And now, the interesting thing is, this show was shot like about 3 years ago because Brett was, I believe, 18 when it started, and she just now celebrated her 21st birthday. So that gives you an idea about how slow things work when you're on the DC Universe app, I guess, because of the lines you have to get behind the other shows and everything. So now it's here. And so that's my overview of the Justice Society of America and everything, and the backstory behind all the characters that you're going to get in Stargirl and everything. So join me once again on the rest stop when I will be looking at the shows individually. So starting with episode 1. So I am the hijacker. This has been your rest stop on the digital highway here in the DC universe on Essentials. Thank you very much.